Today we're going to use the G.R.I.P strategy to look at the importance of varying sentence types when you're writing. So I want to start with explaining the grammar concept to you, which is going to be sentence types, and then I'm going to show you some examples of varying sentence types in a selected piece of reading, and I'm going to discuss the impact that I felt it had on me and possibly the impact it was supposed to have on you as the reader. After we've done that, we're going to talk about ways to practice doing the same thing that this author did, but in our own writing. So let's look at the grammar concept that we're actually talking about, which is sentence types. We're really just going to focus on two types of sentences today because these are the two types that I pulled out from the text that we're looking at. So I want to talk about a simple sentence, and then I'm going to talk about a complex sentence. Simple sentence has one independent clause. That means that this whole thing makes sense all by itself, right? This is one simple sentence that makes sense by itself, one independent clause. It has no dependent clauses. Now, my complex sentence, on the other hand, is a little bit different. My complex sentence does still have one independent clause, so that's this part here. Will looked ahead at the house. That makes sense all by itself. I could put a period right here and that would be a perfect sentence. But I added to it to give you more information about the house, and it reads, that would be his new home. So Will looked ahead at the house, which is my independent clause, and then my dependent clause is, that would be his new home. And that's actually really helpful because it gives me more information about the house. Okay, let's look at it in reading. So I selected this page from Shades of Grey by Carolyn Reeder. And what stood out to me here were three examples that she used of varying sentence types. The first one is Will gritted his teeth, simple sentence. The second one, he hated to be preached at, another simple sentence. And then when we get down to the bottom, she goes into using a complex sentence. His little sisters hadn't died in one of the epidemics that had spread from the encampments into the city. And remember, this is a complex sentence because in addition to it having its independent clause, it also has the dependent clause that had spread from the encampments into the city. And again, that gives me more information about the epidemics. So let's talk about why I chose these sentences. Well, when I looked at this first sentence, Will gritted his teeth, this simple sentence, I liked it because it gave me more information and helped me to really see how Will was feeling. And then I looked at the second sentence, he hated to be preached at. And I felt like these two simple sentences were building me up for something. So here in the body, there's a conversation that occurs between Will and Doc Martin. And Will is very upset and Doc Martin is trying to convince him not to be. And he starts off here, Will, being very upset but kind of trying to contain it. For me, that's illustrated by the simple sentences. But then he gets down here and it starts to boil over, which I think is illustrated by the complex sentence. His little sisters hadn't died in one of the epidemics that had spread from the encampments into the city. It's almost as if he starts to get more and more upset, thereby going on a little rant. And I think the author did a great job of illustrating that by showing us the complex sentence. I can really see the mounting frustration. So I say, great job, Carolyn Reeder. I'm really able to see how Will gets increasingly upset as he moves through this conversation. So what would that look like in our own writing? Well, here's a possible task that we could do. What if you went back to your previous writing and played with the sentence types, for effect, the way Carolyn Reeder did when she wanted us to really understand that Will was getting increasingly upset? What if we looked at our own writing and tried to duplicate that? Okay, well, let me show you what I did. This is what I did for mine. I actually did my revision based on a book that I'm reading called Go Set a Watchman by Harper Lee. And what I tried to do was change my original response so that it better reflected the frustration that I was feeling with the character. So I want you to read both and I want you to tell me what you think. And I'll explain to you a little bit about why I made the changes I made. So here's my first response. When I heard Scout's response to her dad, I was mad because I thought she was different. I thought Scout would disagree with Atticus because she was on the side of justice. So that's my first response. But I wanted to change it to really help the reader see the frustration that I was feeling with this character. So here's the revision. When I heard Scout's response to her dad, I was mad. I thought she was different. I thought she was on the side of justice. What do you think? I played with adding some more simple sentences because I wanted you to get the feeling that I was super frustrated with this character. So why don't you try it? I'm going to give you the same prompt. I want you to go back to your previous writing and I want you to change two sentences or a part of what you wrote and be prepared to discuss why you changed those sentences. Good luck.